All right, let's get to the meat of this. I did make a couple of changes. I realized trying to see the difference between capital P and lowercase p was very difficult for me when I was grading, so I changed it to R, so that's going to be easier for me. So this says a researcher is investigating this flowering plant. Red flower is capital R, the white flower is lowercase r. I do a cross between a white plant and a red plant, and from the 206 seeds, I produce 124 red and 82 white. So this says, what is the genotype of the red flower? So let's do some thinking about this. If I know I have a red flower, it can be either this, homozygous dominant, or heterozygous. If I do a cross between a white flower, which must be homozygous recessive, and the homozygous dominant, I can see all of my offspring are going to be red. So there's no possible way for me to get 82 white plants. So if I look at a heterozygous red plant and the homozygous recessive, I can see it is likely 50% of my plant, my offspring, will be red and 50% will be white. So therefore, I must have this as my answer. So down here, I'm going to put A, full sentences, the genotype of the red flower is period. Okay, B says, what's the null hypothesis? I would like you guys to use the same null hypothesis each time we do this, because we're looking at it like a biologist. There is more than one correct answer, but if you do it this way, you are very, very, very likely to get it correct. The null hypothesis is always going to be there is no outside factor impacting, in this case, genetic cross. That's my null hypothesis. Remember, if I can disprove this, then there must be an outside factor, and as a biologist, that's interesting to me, because that's something I can try to go figure out. Okay, so construct a table similar to the ones above. So for these, what I would love it if you did is please don't do chi-square by hand. You are going to be able to use your calculator on the final, so use your calculator. I saw a lot of math mistakes when I was grading this, and I'd really like it if you just created a chart that said, in this case, red, white, observed, expected. And you could even put a total on the bottom, which is never a bad idea. So observed was 124 red and 82 white. 124, 82. I'm going to use my calculator because I want to make sure I get this right. Clear, I do 124 plus 82 equals 206. 206. If I look back at my Punnett square, this one right here, it says half should be red and half should be white. So I can take my 120 or my 206 and divide by 2. If I have more than one option, I know dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by 0.5. So I could multiply each of the options by 0.5 and I would still get 103. So now I have my observed and my expected values. I go to my calculator, I clear, I hit stat edit. Oh, look at that, I've already got them in there. You should know how to put these numbers in, 124, 82, 103, and 103. I hit enter, second, quit, stat, I squared goodness of fit test, hit enter, observed is in the right one, expected is in the right one. This says degrees of freedom 2, I'm going to actually have 1. I hit calculate, and it says I have a chi-squared value of 8.56. So I write, abbreviate, chi-squared equals 8.56. All right, do I reject or fail to reject my null hypothesis? So I got my degrees of freedom chart. I said I had 1 degree of freedom because I have 2 options, red or white. And this over here says degrees of freedom are equal to the number of distinct possible outcomes minus 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. So my degrees of freedom, my critical value is going to be and I'm going to put this right here, equals 3.84. So I know that chi-square value is higher than my critical value, so I'm going to put D, comma, E right here, and I'm going to say I reject null hypothesis because a chi-square value, and I always put it in, of 8.56 is greater than a critical value of 3.84. There must be, oops, sorry, you can't see what I'm saying here. There must be some outside factor. Okay, so I want to point out a couple things. When we're grading this, we're looking for a couple things. I want to see that you have rejected the null hypothesis. I want to know that you have identified the chi-square value and the critical value. This tells me you're using the correct degrees of freedom. So one thing you can do is you can underline these things. Chi-square value is greater. And that really tells the grader, especially if you have poor handwriting, exactly what to look at. This is a great way to get full points. If you underline these things, it makes it super easy for the grader to look at it and know exactly what you were thinking and how you got the right answer. If you have any questions, of course, you can come in and see me. Tutoring time is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday morning.